No mud, no lotus. Hello. Okay, before I get started, I want to say a big welcome to all the new subscribers to the channel, actually to both my channels. And I want to acknowledge that those new subscribers are basically like a gift from Guilao60. And I would like to thank Guilao60 personally. I hope he watches this video and that he will accept my appreciation for, his shout out that he did that basically doubled the subscribers on this channel and multiplied the subscribers on my other channel by like 4 times. Amazing. Thank you, Guilao. I don't always agree with everything that Guilao60 says. As a matter of fact, yesterday, I made a comment on his video that, I disagreed with something that he said during that video. And, that's just me. That's who I am. I say things that I think, and, that's what I'm going to do. The fact that I made a comment that I disagree with something that Guilao said in his video in no way diminishes the appreciation that I have for Guilao giving me all these new subscribers. Thanks again, Guilao. Okay, I'm going to get into no mud, no lotus now. It's basically saying that there's no bad without good. It's like the whole yin-yang thing, the circle with the half black, half white. That's life. That's just the way things are. All the anti-China YouTuber channels out there, they keep saying about China has made so many just terrible changes, just awful. Everything that China changes is just for the worse. Worse for the people, worse for the country. And I mean, there's a couple of YouTubers in specific that I can think of that say that China made so many bad changes that they had to leave the country. I'm not going to mention their names on this channel for reasons that you probably know. But anyway, I'm going to get into this whole no mud, no lotus thing to explain to you. If you haven't heard of no mud, no lotus, if you have heard of it, you already know what I'm talking about. If you haven't heard of it, you'll understand it, or I hope I can explain it in a way that you'll be able to understand. I'm going to just give you some really, really simple, off the top changes that, basically try to give you some examples of no mud, no lotus. So here we go. So living in China, I could apply no mud, no lotus to a spectacular number of changes. As everyone knows, China changes so fast, and the things that I've seen in the 13 years that I've been here, it's just amazing how fast things change. Change brings mud and lotus. Every single change brings mud and lotus. So just to start out with a few simple examples, here's the first one. 13 years ago when I first arrived in Shenzhen, the buses, many of the buses, not all the buses, but actually quite a few of the buses would pick you up anywhere. You didn't have to be at a bus stop. You could just be at the side of the road, wave them, and they would stop and pick you up. What changed since then? Okay, what's changed is the buses stop at all bus stops, and only at bus stops. They won't pick you up if you're not at a bus stop. But they stop at every single stop. Whether there's customers there or not, whether there's people wanting to get off the bus or not, they stop at every single bus stop. So, what's the mud in this case? What is the mud in this case? If you're between bus stops, they're not going to pick you up. That's mud, obviously. You're going to be just, oh, that's so terrible. That's a terrible change. I just hate that. The main reason that the drivers who were doing that, they would pick you up anywhere along the route, is that they were paid commission. And they're not paid commission anymore. They're paid a salary. So there's another mud. If you're a driver and you're on a route that's, particularly busy, you could actually make extra money. Or especially during holidays or whatever, you can make extra money on commission because you're picking up more people and you're paid on a commission. Now they're paid a salary. So no matter how many drivers or how many customers they pick up, they're just going to get paid the same. So they won't stop in between bus stops. So you might think that's mud. You might think, especially if you're a driver of the bus, you're going to think, well, that's just terrible. I can't make that extra commission now. There's your mud. So what is lotus in this situation? Okay, I'd say the first lotus in this situation is that they get paid the salary. Even though I just said they can't make the extra commission, they get paid a salary. So they have a predictable income, which is obviously better. I mean, like I said, there's going to be some people that are going to think that's a terrible change. There's going to be other people that think that's a lotus, that I can go home even if I don't have any customers. let's say during a pandemic when times are slow. They're still going to get paid the same. Another lotus in this situation would be safety. You know, when the buses are just getting waved over and they're just pulling over at the side of the road, it's unsafe for the cars going by. They have to pull back into traffic. It's unsafe for the people that are at the side of the road waving the bus over anywhere, you know. I mean, safety is improved because you go to an established bus stop where there's protective barriers there, you know, and it's off the side of the road. And the buses, like I said, they stop at every single stop now, whether there's customers there or not. So the next example I'm going to give you is when I arrived, I think damn near all the buses, if not all the buses, were run on fossil fuels. What's changed? Today, every single bus, 100%, are run on electricity. They're all battery operated. Even buses that run from, you know, they pick up people at the north end of the city, they stop 2 or 3 stops there. They're huge buses. They get on the highway and then they drive downtown and they have 2 or 3 stops down there for people that are commuting from, you know, the outskirts of the city to downtown. You can do that by bus here in Shenzhen. But they're all electric now. They're all run on batteries. What's the mud in that situation? How can there possibly be mud in that situation where the buses are changed from electric to, or changed from fossil fuels to electric? If you're the person selling that fossil fuel to the bus line, you're thinking, well, that's mud. That's a terrible change. It's just awful. You know, if you're the environment, you're probably thinking that's a pretty good thing, right? Another one of the lotuses in this situation is a lot of the buses, actually, I think most of the buses, have USB charging ports at every single seat. I'm not sure if a lot of people know that because I rarely see people using them. They have little covers on them, so maybe people don't realize that those are USB charging ports on every bus, not every bus, but majority of buses on every single seat in the bus. So the next change, here's one that's very, very simple, and I'm sure you can wrap your head around the mud and the lotus to this one very easily. I mean, it's just a terrible change to some people, and it's a excellent thing for other people. 13 years ago when I first arrived, cars would never stop for pedestrians. You know, even at a pedestrian crosswalk, even if it's pouring down rain and they're in a car and I have no umbrella or anything and I'm crossing the road, they would never stop. You know, sometimes it would be very annoying that, you know, it's raining and here's this person, you know, cruising through, like maybe sometimes even slowly. Back then, I think it was like a privilege to have a car here in China, or definitely in Shenzhen. I don't know about all of China, but the people that had the cars, they felt they were privileged and they didn't have to stop for people at the pedestrian crosswalk. What's changed? They've set up cameras at all of the pedestrian crosswalks, and if you're going to try to go through there and risk, actually you even have to slow down, even if there's no pedestrians, you have to slow down now at every pedestrian crosswalk. That's how much it's changed. And everybody is required to stop for pedestrians. If there's a pedestrian crossing the road, cars must stop. If you don't stop, even if there are people waiting there and the camera sees it, you're going to get a fine, or risk getting a fine anyway. I've never gotten one. I don't know anyone who has gotten one, but you definitely risk getting a fine if you don't stop for pedestrians now. So generally, I'd say 80%, 85% of the time, cars are stopping for pedestrians now. So where's the mud in that there, Wu Jiao? Come on, give us the mud. Well, if you're the person that's sitting in the car and you're going in a school area at the end of the school day, you're going to be waiting there probably maybe 5 minutes or even longer for all of the pedestrians to cross the road. Now, it's not like you can inch through and try to, get going. I mean, there's cameras there. You're not going to do that. There's some real mud if you're a car, or if you're a person in a car waiting to go through. And because you have to slow down at every single bus stop, or every single pedestrian crosswalk, because you have to slow down at each one, there's another mud that if you're going to work in the morning, you're going to have to add just a little bit of time to your commute, because you can't just whip down the road. Those cameras are picking up if you're slowing down for pedestrian crosswalks. You must slow down and look for pedestrians. So I think everybody can kind of figure out the lotus on this one. For the pedestrians, the safety, obviously, it's much safer for them to cross the road. by now you can see that every change does have Mud and Lotus. And you know, those two guys that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, that I'm not going to name in this video, that say that China made so many bad changes, just terrible changes, that they had to leave China. You know what they're doing now? They're in the US just raking in the money. You know what they're talking about? They're making videos, they're talking about those terrible changes in China that made them have to leave. And they're raking in the money from that. So doesn't that make what they perceived as just the mud or the terrible changes, doesn't that make those changes, in fact, Lotus also for them? Come on, you got to think about that, right? So anyway, I hope I didn't confuse anyone. I hope I explained this in a way that you can kind of grasp it. And sometimes you have to look for what is the mud and what is the Lotus. But there is no bad change. There is no bad change. There's mud and Lotus in every single change. I hope I've helped you to understand that. No mud, no Lotus. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Looks like it sucks up the water itself. You just put it into some water and it'll suck it up. Deluxe shotgun, or deluxe squirt gun.